Hi everyone, this is Darren. Just doing a live sim of the championship game. So for those of you not aware, tonight is SNCFL's championship game. So it's Maryland versus Miami. It's the number one and number two teams against each other. Maryland, of course, is undefeated. So is Miami. Maryland is my team. Miami is Gary's team. These two teams have a history with each other outside of in real life where up until more recently, the greatest comeback of all time was Maryland versus Miami, where Frank Reich led the miracle in the second half that beat Miami. And of course, then he would do it in the pros with Buffalo versus Houston. But in this league, Gary actually holds the advantage in the last 5 seasons. He's won two to Maryland's one. Of course, Miami beat Maryland for the SNCFL championship in 2051. This is the 2055 game. And then, of course, they also beat Maryland in 2050, where they knocked Maryland out in the semifinals. Maryland got a little bit of revenge on them in 2053 when they knocked them out in the semifinals. Uh, all time, the advantage kind of goes to Maryland, who I think is like 12-4 versus Miami all time, and like 7-3 against them in the playoffs. Gary is probably one of the best coaches in the league. I don't often say that, but in his case, it's actually true. He's really turned Miami into a powerhouse. So Miami enters this game as a 98 prestige team versus Maryland, who's a 99 prestige team. So you literally are talking about the two best teams in the league. So things to watch for in this game before I get it started is Miami has a really good quarterback in Jesse Payne. If we look back on how they got here, is they've been kind of living off second half comebacks. They downed NC State in the championship game in a 3-point contest. Then they came back, scoring 11 points against Ohio State in the final 2 minutes to force overtime, which they won. And then they downed Oklahoma State, where they came back in the fourth quarter, scoring like 14 points against Oklahoma State. And of course, Oklahoma State is coached by Frankie. Ohio State is coached by DP, and NC State is coached by Van. And then they downed Washington State, who's my second team, in the semifinals, where they came back again and scored with 2 minutes left to break the hearts of all the Washington State fans who wanted to see if Merriman could break the all-time rushing record in the single-season rushing record held by the immortal Mike Bynum out of Louisiana Monroe. Maryland's path is a little bit maybe easier in the fact that they downed Iowa in the Big Ten championship game by a pretty wide margin, then obliterated Akron in the first round, beat Iowa again, so that's Frankie's other team, by a fairly wide margin, and then won out in a shootout with Georgia in the semifinals. Well, it's 2 seasons in a row where they've knocked Georgia out of the playoffs. And that's how they arrive here. So, what to look for in this game? Maryland has a very talented running back in Leo Vang, who has run for over 2,800 yards so far this season. Um, Payne has thrown for over 50. His favorite target is going to be Benjamin Culp. Both him and Culp are likely going to be first round draft picks in the WWPF. Vang is a junior, so unless he comes out, he's likely not going to be in the WWPF draft this season. But if he does come out, he likely will be one of the top targets. So this should be a high scoring game. I brought us straight to the thing. I don't know what the results of this game are. So I'm just going to go ahead and start it and we will go from there. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot throughout this process. I'm just going to talk about big plays and stuff like that and maybe give you a little bit of context. But without further ado, here is the 2055 championship game for the SNCFL. So let's drop that a little bit. Let's do that a little bit and we shall hit play. So Again, these two teams are very much they're very familiar with each other. Miami's kicking off. Maryland chooses not to take the ball out of the end zone. Um, Baker, who is a sophomore, is Maryland's quarterback, and he was a five-star out of California. Of course, all the eyes are going to be on Vang. Not a good penalty, though. So Maryland will use three running backs. They'll use Boudreaux, and a lot of times they will use Vang, will be the main two. Let me change this so we can actually see this. So interception and return for a touchdown. That's not a good beginning. So Miami scores first off a touchdown. They returned it 33 yards so it's a pick six for 33 yards. So Miami's on board first. It's 7-0 Miami with 13 minutes left to go. Pretty good return from Pritchard. Miami gets a penalty. You're going to see a lot of penalties from these two teams. They are very penalized, and we'll see how that goes. So Fairley just came back from injury. He's missed most of the season. I forget if it was a concussion or something like that, but he's been out. So Baker is not off to a great start. And surprisingly, Maryland has not really run the ball. That's going to be a sack. So yeah, Miami is just completely decimating Maryland at this point. Um, so Gary, spot on with your game planning. And we'll now get to see Miami on offense. They haven't been seen yet because, of course, the interception for a touchdown gave Maryland the ball back. And right off the bat, he's going straight to Benjamin Culp. You have to watch that. Maryland's going to rotate their cornerbacks through. So Zachary Barlow's a freshman. That's not a good matchup for Maryland. But they'll get a sack Hill with Ballman sacking Payne. So that'll create a second and long. We'll see how they deal with that. And he's got a lot of time. That's never a good sign. And he completes it to Ruffin before Minnick brings him down. So really good pickup there on a second and long to get the first down. And what you'll see from Gary is he will throw the ball to open up the running lanes. And his team can definitely run. Guerrero is a really good running back. If I remember correctly, he's over 1,000 yards for the season. So that's just something to watch. Payne, of course, is going to be the one that everybody's watching, and he's off to a really good start, Hill. He's 2 of 2 for 58 yards. Nice break up there. So, I'm sorry, 3 of 3. So he's really 3 of 4. Now he's 3 of 5. I probably should not have said anything. But they're going to throw the ball a lot to him. And that's incomplete, so Miami will kick it. Pennington hasn't missed from over 40 the entire season, I think. So he is almost a surefire thing when it comes to kicking. So it's 10-0 Miami. And we'll see what Maryland can get started here. They haven't been doing very well. So Boudreaux gets a good run, fumbles it, but manages to recover it. Maryland does turn over the ball a lot for a team that is first in scoring offense and scoring defense. And it's another interception. Maryland is just really not starting well. So that's 2 interceptions in the first quarter alone. And a fumble. Thankfully, the fumble didn't go the other way. So Miami will get the ball really good field position. You don't want to get down to Miami early in the game. Even if you're Maryland, this is definitely not, I think, going the way that Maryland was hoping for. So it's 2nd and 2 on the Maryland 2. And it is now 17-0 with 4 minutes left in the first quarter. Miami is just flat out routing Maryland. So it looks like I got my game plan wrong on both sides of the ball. So kudos, Gary, on a really good game plan so far. So Maryland finally gets a completion. Right now, Payne's having a really good game. Expected that from him because he is that quality of a quarterback. Looks like they're finally getting Vang into the running game. If Maryland's going to have a chance, they've got to get Vang started because they're a different team when he plays well. So Baker's starting to settle down, which is what you want to see after he's thrown 2 interceptions in the first quarter alone. Again, Vang is working his magic, which is what they want to see. Boudreaux is not a bad running back either. He's a 5-star running back, whereas Vang is a 4-star running back out of Maryland. Actually, maybe out of Virginia. So Maryland definitely is moving the ball well in this drive. Much needed, and looks like they got the first down but didn't get in. So it'll be first and go on the 1, and they toss it to Vang for a touchdown. So Maryland just managed to score. I would almost go for 2 here, but they're not. They're going to go for 1. So it's 16-7. Near the end of the first quarter, it's 53 degrees outside. There is a wind, so that's going to play a little bit of factor into this game. I can blame the wind for the interception so far, I guess, if I wanted to, but I'm not. Payne is looking really good. So there's a drop there. Miami's starting to see some injuries, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. That could change some of it. D. Leon gets a really big breakup there. But again, the challenge that Maryland's going to have is they don't really have anybody that can cover Culp very well. Dominic Burke, who was the all-world cornerback, is of course playing for the Steelers now in the WWPF. But more in the second quarter, it's 16-7. Miami's driving. Miami's pretty much had the way with the Maryland defense so far. And again, Spears and Guerrero both are running the ball well. I mean, a lot of things are going Miami's way right now. So another good completion to Culp. He, I think, already has like 4 receptions. So Gary did a really good job with his game planning. There's a penalty on Maryland. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out. And Guerrero gets another first down. And Miami's now in the red zone, and that looks like it's a touchdown. So far, this has really been all Miami. So I think it's now, what, 23-7? So very good job from Gary. His team is definitely playing out of their minds. Maryland's going to have to figure it out. This is not a good start for them. So even if they score here, their defense is going to really have to figure out how to buckle down because Miami's just going down the field at will and scoring on them. So we'll see how Maryland plays this. It's good to have Fitch. That was a good catch by him. So the more that Baker can open up the running game, the better for Maryland because it'll allow Vang to be able to get down the field better. So 2nd and 5. Baker's got some time and misses Bittner. Bittner is Maryland's best wide receiver, so I'm actually a little bit shocked that they're not getting the ball to him as often. But Vang picks up the first down and keeps the Maryland drive alive. I don't know how I missed that both Fitch and, Tolliver and Bittner have the same number. Vang picks up another 5, makes it a 3rd and 4. We'll see if Maryland can convert, and they don't. So Maryland has a pretty good kicker on Barosh. So we'll see how he does, and it's good. So it's 23-10. There's a lot of time left. Maryland is explosive enough to come back, but it's really going to key on can they stop Miami, and so far they haven't. So that's a good stop there. Willie Bone needs to get into the game a little bit more. He's one of Maryland's best linebackers. And then they just got to figure out a way to keep Payne from getting him. And there was a safety blitz still, so Maryland forces a 3 and out, which is good. Or I hope that they forced a 3 and out. So Pritchard is a little bit of a danger to be able to return punts, but that one was a good punt and no return. So they give it to Vang. Vang is dancing to 11 yards in a first down. And we got Bakel. He's got time. He's one of those guys that if he gets time, he can actually hurt you. So he finds Bittner for 16 yards. That's a good completion for Maryland. Maryland's starting to get some movement now, but of course, it's going to be hard. Miami has a really good secondary. So Vang is running again for 10 yards. So I mean, this game is not as big of a blowout as it felt in the first quarter. In the first quarter, I was willing to throw my hands up in the air and say, I can't do this video because my team is just getting crushed. Maryland is getting some movement now, which is good. Baker's definitely settled down after the 2 interceptions in the first quarter. Of course, I say that, and I probably just jinxed him. Vang just ran for a touchdown, so 15 yards for a touchdown. Maryland's key to success in this game is they've got to get Vang to go off. So it's 23-17 now in the second quarter. Maryland has had a much better second quarter than they did the first quarter. So watch Miami's return game. They are capable of running it back for touchdowns. But again, the Maryland defense has really got to start buckling down against this Miami offense, which is really, really good, by the way. So the penalty doesn't help Miami, but I mean, the way Vang's playing, I'm sorry, the way that Payne's playing right now, definitely they got a chance. So it's 3rd and 8. Maryland would love to get a stop here. They didn't. Again, you're going to see Beasley versus Culp all night. It's just going to be really hard to stop Culp. He is that good of a wide receiver. It's kind of like a Randy Moss type wide receiver, though. So Payne is just, he's like the Miami quarterbacks of old, whether it was like Steve Walsh, Dorsey, Bernie Kosar, those type of guys. And I mean, that's a really good run from Payne. I'm pretty sure Gary doesn't want Payne running the ball. So that ends the first quarter, first half with Miami up 23-17. Now in the third quarter, Maryland's kicking it off. And we'll see what happens here. And Payne is like the one guy you don't want to give a lot of time to. So thankfully that somehow Culp missed that. Maryland again picks up another neutral zone infraction. It's kind of shocking. I wouldn't expect Gary to run a lot of quarterback options with Payne. It's a good idea. I mean, I didn't put anything in for that. So great thought there, Gary. So Maryland's got the ball back after the punt. So we'll see how this plays out with 13 minutes left. Maryland again is going to try to run the ball with Fang in order to get back in this. So fairly. So apparently Maryland had the unnecessary roughness and get a good return by Fairley. And they'll punt that. They're not gonna. I'm not set for aggressive. I think I'm set for conservative. So Romero gets a good punt. He's not a good punter, by the way. But we'll see how he plays out. I'm hoping this doesn't go to field goal kickers because Miami's got a better one. It's a really good job blocking, and again, just can't find Culp on that play. So it's 3rd and 10. And just incomplete again. A little bit, Maryland is doing a better job in the second half of slowing down Payne. And we'll see what they can do on this. So still 23-17 in the third quarter with like 11 minutes left. Vang gets a good 10-yard gain there. He should be approaching like 100 yards at this point. He's at 88. Boudreaux is again a change of pace back to him. He's more of a speed back than the same type of back. This could be a sack. but it's not. So he finds Fitch. Fitch isn't going to outrun the Miami secondary. There's only probably two of Maryland's receivers that can, and Bujo gets it down to the 1 for second and goal, and Vang punches it in. So we are now, I think Maryland should be up 24-23 with 8 minutes left in the third quarter. So Maryland's somehow come back after that really awful first quarter that they had. So we'll see what they do here, and a penalty on Maryland for unnecessary roughness. Again, penalties don't shock me with Maryland. They've had a really bad thing. What is kind of shocking me a little bit is the drops with Payne. He started the game where he couldn't do anything wrong, and in the second half, they're dropping the ball a lot, or he's just barely missing. So that's a punt. And Maryland will get the ball back, and we'll have to see what happens here. It's a really tight game. Maryland really has stabilized themselves after that awful first quarter that they had. They're getting a good rushing attack from Boudreaux and Vang, who have 120 yards. I think Vang just broke the 100-yard mark. If he gets like 120, 130 yards, I think Maryland can win this game. Mostly because it'll mean that they'll be able to control the clock. And all this is good because, I mean, at the end of the first quarter, it was 16-7. Maryland had thrown 2 INTs. It was actually 23-7 at one point before Maryland started to come back. So 3rd and 9 and dropped. Drops are really, both teams are getting plagued with them. So Maryland will have to punt with 4 minutes left and a 1-point lead. This has been a pretty good game so far. The second half is turning very much into a kind of a defensive duel to a certain extent. But Maryland just needs to keep Payne out of the game. The more completions he gets, the better chance that Miami will have. So it's 3rd and 1. We'll see what they do here. They're going to run it. And they've had lots of success today with getting that ball out. Losing Lee Krause is going to hurt Maryland. He's their speedy, strong safety. And they use them a lot in coverage. So we'll see how this plays out. So Payne's starting to complete passes again, so that's a good sign for Gary and Miami. It's a really good play right there. Spears runs for 17. Miami's putting together a drive now, so we'll see how this gets. And he gets so good for Maryland that they got the sack on Payne. Hopefully that'll disrupt them just a bit. So now it's 2nd and 21, and we have only a minute left in the third quarter. It's 3rd and 21, and another drop. So Miami will have to punt. Both these teams aren't used to punting a lot. They're not really punting teams. So Maryland's got a couple key defensive stops with sacks, and then of course Vang is having a pretty decent game so far once they started to get him more involved. Now, one of the things about Vang is he does fumble. He probably fumbles a little bit more often than anybody would like. Maryland's got time. Let's see where they're going to go with this. And it's broken up. So, and Maryland will punt. And not a good return, thankfully. So we're in the fourth quarter now with 14 minutes left to go. And Miami is, I mean, Payne has started to settle down. The first maybe 5-10 minutes of the third quarter, he was struggling a little bit. He's not struggling now. He's starting to get some completions. And of course, Guerrera and Spears are starting to get some daylight and making the most of it. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Miami, like I said before in the opening, is they've come back in pretty much all but one. Well, actually, they've come back in every single playoff game this year. So it's a team that's fully capable of coming back. And again, it's a one field goal game. So, and that's a touchdown to Culp that don't be shocked if they go for two. Yeah, they're going to go for two. Um, just to see if they can't open it up. And it was successful. So now it is a 7-point game. So Maryland has to score a touchdown to tie it up. So we have 10 minutes left. Miami's up 31-24. Payne is just having a really good game. That's going to be a sack. Ocampo is one of Miami's better linebackers. So, um, yeah, and incomplete. So, uh, Maryland had shown some signs of coming back to life, and now they're going to have to punt and hope that they can stop Miami Hill because Miami has really good field position and they should be able to come out of this with a field goal at least, unless they turn the ball over. So good stop in the backfield there from Bone. Of course, Mellon is going to try to get a sack or something, Hill, and that was dropped by Guerrera. I mean, at some point, Payne's got to have a conversation with these guys because they're dropping a lot of his passes. Uh, don't know that I would have punted though, but okay. I don't know what Gary's game plan is. I don't know if he's set to conservative. If he's set to conservative, he's going to punt though. If he's set to aggressive, he's going to would probably go for it. If balanced, he's likely going to kick the field goal. And again, I'm sorry, his kicker, Pennington, is actually, he hasn't missed inside the 40 from 40 yards or higher. And Vang fumbled there, and thankfully he got it back. Otherwise, that would be bad. So that should be a first down, and it is. So Maryland, with 6 minutes left, is going to try to drive. Baker decides to come out of the pocket and run that one. There aren't a lot of that is busted coverage. I think Gary was blitzing, and they caught him in the blitz, and he's not going to catch Fitch. So Maryland scores, and now they will probably kick the field goal, and they did. So it's tied at 31 all with probably around 5 minutes left, I think. So we'll see. Yeah, 5 minutes left. It's been a really good game. I kind of expected this out of these two teams. These two teams are probably as evenly matched as you're going to find for two 90 pluses. Good completion there by Payne. Melon doesn't really want him to get into a groove right now because if he does, he's probably going to beat him. So we'll see what happens here. There's a penalty there, holding. Oof, that hurts. That was a first down. So we have 2nd and 15 instead of a first down. They're going to hand it off to Guerrero again, who has had a really good game rushing the ball. And they're stopped, I think, just shy of the first down, and they kick it away a 4th and inches on the 40. And Pennington tries a 59-yarder and misses. I think in real life Gary would have went for it, but we'll see what happens. Vang is going to run the ball, so it's 136 yards for Vang. I would have to look, but I don't think Maryland loses very often. So this is a 58-yarder from Barrosh, and his is good. So with a minute 23, Maryland is up 34-31. So not a good place to be with Miami. Miami again can't come back, and they just need to get to field goal range. And outside of the one kick that Pennington missed, it's the only time he's missed over 40 this year. So timeout by Miami. Again, not sure why they would run the ball there when you have Payne. and dropped. So we got 2nd and 10 with 54 seconds left. It's a penalty, and it's on Miami. And another penalty on Miami. So 3rd and 21. Wow. And that's incomplete. So 4th and 21. And it's a sack, I think. Touchdown. So sack, fumble, touchdown, Maryland. That's the game. So it's now 41-31. That miss by Pennington was huge. Um, I would have argued that I would have went for it on 4th and inches at that range instead of trying to get the field goal. But again, that's just one of those things. So 25 seconds left. Miami's down by 10. I don't. They're not going to come back from this. So Maryland will win the SNCFL championship with 19 seconds left. Great game from Miami. It looked horrible in the first quarter for Maryland as they just were. Yeah, too many men on the field. They were probably already celebrating, thinking the game was over. So really good game from Fang. Really good game from Payne. Those were the two. So that's it. So if we look at the stats real quick, so Payne was 32 of 52 for 294 yards. Culp was 9 of 82 for 81 for that. And if we look at the stats, is Miami had 22 first downs and Maryland's 19. They were comparable in total yards. Maryland ran for 193, Miami for 131. Miami definitely threw for more. Maryland had more sacks. Maryland definitely was more penalized, which makes sense. But really good game. Hats off to Gary for a great season. And just want to say thanks everyone for watching this video. I will be putting the league file up. If you're interested in this, next year we'll potentially do this live. It's a weekday, so I'm not doing it live for that reason. But if you're interested in joining the SNCFL, look at the links in the video. We have a lot of good teams. We will be moving to 2024, the 2024 version on Saturday when I flip the season. But definitely thanks everyone and hope you have a great night.